And now back to the MMA Fight Corner. On the all-new Sports 920, The Game.
All right, welcome back to the Tuesday edition of the MMA Fight Corner here on the all-new Sports 920, The Game. For your hosts, Joey Varner, Phil Devine, Heidi Fang, and our special in-studio guest, Dr. Jason Burke. I'm Dave Carney. And guys, we did finally get online with Nick Newell, who was fighting at the World Series of Fighting 4 just this last weekend. He obviously came out victorious. Nick, thanks so much for being patient with us, staying on the line. This is great to talk to you. I mean, we've been, touting your win here the entire show, so we really appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the corner.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
And it's actually nice to get you on when we knew we were getting
you
on.
Last
time we were set to interview Nick Lentz, and we got you, and it actually turned out to be better because we all knew all about you, but now the world knows about you, especially after Saturday night and, the talks on ESPN and everybody raving about your performance. Tell us how you're feeling today and, based on what this past weekend presented for you.
I feel good, and I worked really hard for that fight, and it was a big stage, and there was a lot on the line. I mean, there were first time viewers. It was a bigger show on a huge network, and a lot of people would have felt the pressure, but for me, it's just another fight, and every fight's a tough fight, and he was super dangerous and powerful and athletic, and I just kept my cool and I stayed calm, and I knew what I had to do. I came in the fight with a not as much as like a set game plan, but a strategy on how to beat him, and I followed through like a charm and got the job done in the first round.
Now, one of the things that happened before the fight during your pre-fight interview montage thing they showed there, you talked about how hard it has been getting fights signed because of the lose-lose situation in other fighters' eyes. Do you think that's going to change now with the World Series of Fighting?
Yeah, because I'm fighting real fighters, and back in the day, it was a problem. Not so much anymore because I was just fighting, wannabe guys at a local level, guys that fight to impress girls or because they want people to think they're tough. And if you're worried about catch-22s, in MMA, then you shouldn't be fighting, especially not at a high level.
Hey, Nick, did you know that you were trending worldwide on Twitter right underneath Breaking Bad? Just a fun fact.
No, I didn't. Honestly, I will say this: I'm guilty. I'm on my phone a lot, always checking Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. But after the fight, it was like an overload. There was too much, so I took one look at it and I was like, "This is too much for me right now." I was like, "I'm gonna enjoy the moment with my team and my family, and I'll sit down tomorrow and really check all this out." But I don't even know. I like to tweet a lot and I like interact, but I don't know how to see like what's trending or anything like that. Like I don't know. I didn't know that. No.
One day I'll get you in here and I'll give you a lesson. But
yeah.
Another thing about your post-fight was not a lot of fighters get the opportunity to be on ESPN after their fight. It's not often we see like the Wounded Warriors handing fighters a flag. What was all that like for you? You already said it was a little bit overwhelming, but what did it mean to you?
Yeah, Operation Warrior Reconnect, I went with them and, on Tuesday and went to visit a lot of the troops, and World Series of Fighting is great. And, they hooked up, all the troops with tickets to the fight. So like I had a big crowd there for me, it was like I was fighting at home because I had all these guys that I met that were awesome, that were rooting for me, and being on SportsCenter is pretty cool.
Yeah. No doubt.
Nick, we were talking to Dr. Jason Burke, who Hangover Heaven and Vita Heaven LV out here in Las Vegas, work with some fighters, and we were all marveling, and the doctor especially, at how exciting your fight was. I mean, I think we've got this as maybe a category of a fight of the night, right?
Oh, it was the best fight of the night for me. I agree.
And with that being the case, Nick, I mean, here's something. I mean, I know that, with the congenital amputeeism, which is the condition that you have, and like Phil said, a lose-lose situation in some fighters' minds. But with this stage being set up, do you think there's a shot for even bigger and bigger promotions down the line for you? I mean, can you see UFC in your future? That's that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, that's really the only one that's really bigger and Bellator is big too, and they have great things going on. But I really love the way that World Series promotes their fighters, and they put me on the main card, which is amazing. And UFC is the biggest, but I'm not. I could compete with anyone in the UFC and make it a good fight, and I've been saying that for forever, and it's just no one believed me until probably now, and it's funny to me, but I was a free agent and I signed with World Series of Fighting, and I couldn't be happier, and they're on the up, and they really know what they're doing, and I'm not going to complain and say I want to be somewhere else. I'm very happy, and one of the reasons why I fought so well, World Series treats you so well. And before the fight, the vice president sat us down, and he said, he's like, listen, he's like, we're not going to cut anyone after tonight. Everyone still has a job. So, don't worry about anything but the fight, and just go out there and fight. Like I know you guys can. You're here for a reason, and let's put on a show. And, that's what we did. And I always, when I fight, it's always exciting, because I come to fight. I don't come to not lose. I come to win. And, I'm a wrestler, so I try to keep a wrestler's pace and fast, action-packed. And I'm not like, when I go out there, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to make this an exciting fight. It's just naturally how I fight,
Hey, Nick, this is Dr. Burke from Hangover Heaven and Vita Heaven. That was a great fight the other night. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I had a question, though, just as far as your congenital deformity. Looking at pictures, you have a full elbow joint, correct?
I got a full elbow, and it's like a little bit of a forearm.
And do you have both a radius and an ulna, or was there just one of the bones in the forearm there?
I'm not a scientist.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, because it looks like that arm did a pretty good job the other night, and I think people probably discount that a lot. And when looking at you, I think that you did a great job with it, and I think people do discount that issue for you quite a bit, which is to their detriment.
Well, and it's kind of like Nick.
Yeah, it's just an elbow. It's just like hitting with an elbow, so it's like not like any special rules, It's just like, you get hit with a regular elbow. I mean, I was hitting him. I caught him with a good elbow with my right, and I against the cage, I teed off with a couple elbows.
One thing with it too is that I noticed, and especially I was speaking to a training partner of mine out here, Ryan Couture, who wrestled with you, and he said you came to train with him. And I noticed this in a fight as well. Is you've really taken that what would appear to be a disadvantage and turned it into an advantage. Where when you go for some kind of move or something, and the person does the quote unquote proper defense, that defense because of the missing arm plays into your offense, so they think they're safe, and really they just got themselves in worse trouble, and they're getting submitted.
I guess so. I don't know, man. I think I'm just a good scrambler, from wrestling. So I don't really have that much trouble transitioning, and if someone wants to get into a little scramble, they're gonna have to. I'm gonna just keep moving until they quit.
One thing I was wondering is, Keon was a decent scrapper, and he had good stand up. He's known to finish guys. And your stand up looked sharp. You came at him. You were aggressive. You were relentless the whole time. Throwing punches, elbows, good kicks. What I didn't get to see a lot of, and I haven't seen a lot of in the footage I've seen, is your takedown defense, or not your takedown defense, excuse me, your striking defense. When someone can keep it on the feet, stuff a couple takedowns, and engage. How do you use the half your arm, and how is your stand up defense?
Pretty good. I can block just like anyone else. It's like people would say, "Oh, how's your stand-up offense?" You got to watch and see. But I don't. It's not an issue. Defense isn't really an issue. Obviously, I can get caught just like anyone else, but I can block just fine. And I try to use good footwork and movement, so I don't really get hit.
Do you use the elbow? Like, the rule in striking is, hands up, chin down. Put your hands next to your temple, and you move your hand where the punch is coming to block the punch with the hand or wrist area. So I was wondering, do you use that elbow to block the punches?
Yeah, I do. If you watch the fight, I parried a lot of his punches too.
Yeah, I did see that.
I mean, from a medical's perspective, I'm an anesthesiologist. I spend a lot of time in the operating room, and there's a world of difference between somebody who still has an elbow joint or a knee joint, and makes an enormous difference in functionality. And from looking at the pictures and seeing him in the fight, he's got a congenital deformity, but he does well with it because having that joint makes an enormous difference.
Well, and one thing before we get in, Heidi's got a question, and so does Joey before we wrap here. But this is akin to me to one of your heroes, Jim Abbott, who was a pitcher for the New York Yankees. I was reading on a bio that you really looked up to him growing up, and it took Jim to have great success with the Yankees before people started to overlook the disability. I think with this last fight, like Heidi was mentioning, with the Sports Center, blow up that they had there, you may be moving in that same direction to where it's like this is not only understood but completely accepted.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think one day people will stop. You won't hear any questions in the future about your arm. You'll be hearing more questions, and more people will notice the fighter you are, and not look at it as something different. They'll be talking about your fighting because we've seen you fight before. And Joey asked you about your stand-up defense. Hey, do us a favor. Come out of the first round a little bit more. Maybe we'll get to see it. But that's the thing.
Man, if I don't have to, I won't.
No doubt. But I really think the future is so bright for you, and nothing but continued success, Nick.
Well, speaking of the future, Phil, one thing I'd like to touch on, Nick, is I'm not sure if it's 100% confirmed yet, but it sounds like, what's next for you will be a 4-man tournament in the World Series of Fighting featuring Dan Lozon, Justin Gaethje, and JZ Cavalcante. Just want to get your thoughts on those three and who you'd like to see yourself matched up with first.
You look at the tournament and then you see probably Gaethje's the favorite. He's the most unknown probably, but he certainly is a beast. I mean, you look at what he did to Brian Cobb and how he came out and he swarmed Jay-Z and got the cut stoppage, and so he already has a win over Jay-Z, who would be the favorite, and you got Dan Lozon, who looks absolutely phenomenal in his last fight. Very well composed, humongous 155-pounder, and it seems like he's really hit his stride and can completely transform himself into a better fighter. Then you have Jay-Z, who's a legend of the sport, and has done more than prove himself, and some people thought he was fading a little bit, but then he went out and put on a performance like he did and beat a guy like Tyson Griffin and really showed everyone that he hasn't gone anywhere. He's a great competitor, and he's tough, and he's someone that I was watching, before I even trained. I'm like, wow, this guy's phenomenal, like a huge fan. So I'm pretty much cool with fighting whoever. I don't really like to call people out, and if there's a matchup that they want, that World Series wants more, or the fans want more,
You'll be ready. You'll be ready to give it to them.
No, not calling anyone out. I just wanted to know, stylistically, who do you think you match up with well?
I think, on any given day, anyone in that tournament can beat the other one. And, it just depends on who shows up and how well you perform. I mean, on paper, probably, there's certain things like who's a better wrestler, who's a better striker, and I don't really. When I get the fight, I'll figure out a way on how I can beat the person, but I don't really care who I fight. I'm not picky.
Well, I tell you what, Nick, that makes a great fight for all of us because not being picky means we're going to see some fireworks, continued success.
Who would you guys want to see me fight?
I'd love to see you and Lozon.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Yeah, I think that'd be a slick matchup.
That or Gaethje for me.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'd rather actually see you and Gaethje just because we've already seen Gaethje and Jay-Z. Throw Lozon and Jay-Z together, let you and Gaethje bang, and then, I think that'll be awesome.
Nick, thanks so much for coming on to the Fight Corner. We'll talk to you soon.